Thanks, Ann, for the great introduction. As usual, I'm going to kick things off this morning, or this afternoon, I guess, and kind of give you an overview of what's been happening in the community. A lot of you are probably aware of most of the projects that I'm going to show you, but maybe some details that we can provide you today to help clarify things, and maybe we'll give you some new information as well. And then I'm going to turn things over to Neil, who is going to kind of look at the bigger picture from the economic development side. And I guess before I get started, I just wanted to, Neil and I like to do this every year because in addition to getting information out to all of you, we also get to kind of look back and reflect on what's happened over the past year. You know, sometimes when you're in the day-to-day battles and dealing with the fires that we have to deal with on a day-to-day basis, it's tough to remember everything that's happened. It's a chance for us to kind of go back and reflect on what's happened for the last year or so. And I was thinking as I was putting this presentation together, 2 years ago I was here. We had kind of a Thanksgiving theme, if you were here and you remember that. And I did a top 10 list of reasons to be thankful. And frankly, it was difficult back then to come up with those 10 items. Luckily, the Packers were undefeated at the time, so I stuck that. So a different situation on both fronts right now, and the Packers and from city development. So, I kind of explained to you our agenda. Neil's going to cover most of those topics. I'm really going to cover the update on current projects and things that are coming up. So I'm going to jump right in, start off with some development statistics. And I apologize, I'll try to stay out of the way here a little bit so you guys can see the screen. This is a chart that shows single-family permits that have been issued since 2004. And obviously we had a great peak of growth happening in the early 2000s, and then everyone kind of knows what's been happening since then. The good news here is that things seem to be on the upswing. 105 permits through October of this year for new single-family homes, which is the most we've seen since 2005. So I think everyone kind of perceives that there's some additional activity and additional interest, and here we have some stats to kind of show that. So this is a good trend. We hope to see that continue. I'm not sure we necessarily want to get back to these levels that we were at in the early 2000s. This is a good pace. Looking at overall at all residential units, we've added 322 in total residential units. A couple of apartment buildings in Smith's Crossing and a few other places add to that total. That is the most we've seen in terms of the total residential units since 2006. So again, indicating an upward trend here. Here's where most of those permits have been issued. You can see a lot down in Smith's Crossing, Fox Point, West Prairie Village, Creekview Crossing area. A lot of the multifamily have come on here down in Smith's Crossing, but also up in the West Prairie Village area. So just kind of a quick overview of where things are happening. It's good to see it's not happening all in one spot. We're kind of seeing growth in all of the areas that are under development in the city. And then just a quick look at total permits. And this graph is a little surprising, at least it was when I saw it for the first time. So here back in the 2000s, we actually are issuing more permits over the last few years than we did back then. And this would include permits for re-roofing, remodeling, and so forth, the whole gamut. And I think what you're seeing is back then we saw so much building activity, and most of the activity was in new construction. Since then, we've had kind of a refocus. People have been investing in the city or in the community in different ways. So a lot of this would be re-roofing, kitchen remodels, things like that. But interesting to see that those permit totals have actually continued to go up in recent years. And again, 2013 is just through the end of October, so we expect that will be a little higher here by the end of the year. Just a couple of other miscellaneous items. Our Sunk Prairie population, as of January 1 of this year, for the first time eclipsed the 30,000 mark. So we are now a little over 30,395. We did see for 2012 a decline in the overall assessed value in the city again. It's been kind of a trend the last few years, but we're hoping that with the new construction and the improved economic climate here, that we'll start seeing that turn in 2013 and in the coming years. And then one other thing, we don't cover this much in the presentation, but I did want to mention we did have one TIF expansion in 2013. TIF 9 covers the area down by St. Mary's. And that actually, that TIF district got expanded to include many of the vacant properties in the Prairie Lakes development, which is helping us fund some infrastructure and economic incentive improvements in that neighborhood. All right, so let's get on to the actual projects. I'm going to start with our industrial projects and business park projects. We've got 4 to talk about today. The first one, large addition at the back end of Royal Printing. Almost 40,000 square feet was added to the back of the property. Here's a little sketch of what was intended, and photos are a little dark, which is why I put the sketch in there. It's a little difficult to see, but a large addition on the back end, which is going to help with their production and warehousing and so forth. good to see some investment down in that area of the city and along with city business. Out in the business park itself, Eastman Crown International. This is on Business Park Drive and Corporate Center Drive, I believe. They're adding a small addition, about just under 4,000 square feet. That's actually under construction right now. If that photo was a little better and it was a little darker in here, you can see some cranes and so forth. So that's happening right now. I took this picture earlier this week. And then two other things to mention, and Neil's going to cover this as well. Just two very large buildings in the business park that have been vacant for some time. We just had a couple of announcements here, and both are going to be occupied next year. The former famous footwear building, which is about a 400,000 square foot building. It's the largest building in the city. Colony Brands, aka Swiss Colony, will be occupying that building next year. And then the former LA Darling building is being occupied by, the company's called Guardian. I'm not sure what they're going to operate under, but they're a glass processor. They temper glass and argon between plates of glass and so forth, part of the glass production process. Big year for institutional and recreational in that category. So I'm going to cover these projects as well, and I think the first one is one that we've all been waiting for a long time, and it's great to see this come to fruition, the Sunbury Ice Arena. You've been kind of watching like I have over the last few months. The same kind of changes daily, and it's getting better and better each day. So we've played a two full sheet ice arena, 1,800 people capacity. I think it's 1,000 on one, a little over 1,000 on one, and 700 or 800 on the other. There's a restaurant and a lease space, a retail space up front. They're talking with the restaurateur about possibly moving into that facility, and they're slated for a January opening. And I'm not sure about the rest of you, but this is a project that I find really exciting, and I've had the opportunity to tour the facility. They've got a ways to go yet to put the final finishes on, but I think this is a facility that we are going to be very proud of here in Sunbury. It's shaping up to be a really nice facility. Prairie Athletic Club, it was good to see Pete get the appreciation award here today. They're making major investment in that property, and I guess two different, well, I might call it three different projects here. Earlier this year, they opened up Adventure Lagoon, so an expansion of their Dolphins Cove water park up in this area on the property. And if you've been out there recently, they are under construction of the parking lot expansion. Earlier this year, the city agreed to vacate the existing street that ran through here, Athletic Way, and that lane, there's been a lane that kind of reroutes traffic around that parking lot, so we'll still be able to get people through the neighborhood, but this will allow them to increase their parking and consolidate their parking such that people aren't walking across the public street anymore to get to the front door. So safety improvements there. And then next spring, they'll be starting on a major addition to the facility, about 35,000 square feet. I believe they're moving the soccer field from its existing location into this new facility, adding locker rooms, adding CrossFit, and a few other programming activities in the new space, and some of the other space will be converted to additional gym space. So really great to see the investment in the property, and as a member, I'm very much looking forward to that project getting done and being able to use the new facilities. Sunbury United Methodist Church has made a major investment in their facility. I believe this is an addition at the back end of the property to their classroom and possibly the kitchen area. And then they've kind of reoriented their worship space and added a narthex addition, I believe they're calling it, at the back end. So that project is still going on. I took these photos earlier this week. But by early next year, that should be completed and up and running as well. And then two other projects, Sunshine Place. Don't have any photos up here, but I think that's an important one to recognize. You know, it's not a big economic development driver or anything in the community, but I think it's very important, and it's important to recognize the investment, and good to see them have a permanent home now for that facility. And then obviously right here, the west side substation, I think is important as well. We've been doing a lot of planning, and it's a little difficult to see there, but we need a new substation to serve development on the west side and the community as a whole. We're getting to the point now where we need more facilities. And this property, this is Highway 151, and this is Thompson Road as it swings around and becomes Brooks Drive. Schneider Farm sits here. About 3.5 acres has been purchased there for that new facility. We're hoping to kind of tuck it back in a little bit so that as development occurs along this roadway, it'll be a little bit hidden back there, but nonetheless, I think with some great utilities and ATC are stepping up, and we're going to have a nice enclosure built around that. This isn't necessarily the proposal yet. We're still working with them on the specifics. City Council will be considering the design of that enclosure here in the next couple of months, but I think in the end it will fit in nicely, just like our Colorado Avenue substation fits in the neighborhood just up around the corner. So again, a needed piece of infrastructure, and it's good to see them willing to kind of fit in with the environment out there that we're hoping to create on the west side. All right, so now let's move on to some of the commercial projects, and I'm going to start with kind of redevelopments and remodels, and there's quite a wide variety here in the types of projects. I'm going to start out with Walmart, which I'm kind of throwing in this redevelopment category. I think the fact that they have decided to build their new store on their existing site is huge for Sun Prairie. I hate to see another vacancy along Main Street. I think this will be a difference maker out there, and certainly a benefit for that neighborhood. But what's happening here is a 150,000 square foot store. I'm sure you've all noticed it under construction. These are actually pictures this week. It's coming along very nicely. I think it's going to be a nice looking store. They're going to open that store in January of this year. Things seem to be on schedule for that. After that store opens, then the old store is coming down, and they're looking at May perhaps as the final completion date. But again, a big investment on the part of Walmart on Main Street. We're glad to have them remaining on that site. Kind of down to the other end of the spectrum here, this is a smaller project, but I still think it's very important. Eddie's Ale House did a nice rehabilitation of their facade this year. And I'm not sure, is Dan here? Doesn't look like it. So I'm not sure if it's complete. I think I've heard some talk about him perhaps painting a few of these pieces maybe next spring, but I think a real nice change to that building, a real nice upgrade. And as I was looking at this a couple of years ago, I was kind of kicking myself for not recognizing Forever Yours when they did a similar project on the front of their building. So I wanted to make sure that we keep attention downtown to the good things that are happening there. So I guess elated, but I saw John Krieger, I'm not sure if Lori's here, back that way. Great job a couple of years ago. All right, and a couple of others that I'm sure you're familiar with and have heard about. Plate and Barrel, which is kind of a second restaurant. I'm not sure exactly how the two relate to Buck and Honey's, but that opened recently, and if you haven't had a chance to get out there, I encourage you to do so. It's kind of a different environment and a different dining experience for Sun Prairie, and I wish them luck. I think they'll do very, very well there based on my visit out there. And then the second project, I think we're all aware of, is Nitty Gritty. They will be opening very, very, very soon, I'd say. I think you'll see them begin taking customers this week. So welcome to the Nitty Gritty to Sun Prairie. Good luck to Tom Anderson and his group out at Buck Honey's and Plate and Barrel as they move forward with their endeavor there. And then let's talk about new projects. So these are projects that have actually been completed in 2013. And I'm going to start with the multi-tenant buildings out in Prairie Lakes. So we have two buildings there that are completed. Probably familiar with those as well. That's the start of what's going to be kind of the lifestyle center component of Prairie Lakes. So we're looking at possibly 7 buildings or more within this area. 2 are up now. And I just thought I'd give you a quick rundown. We're aware of some of the tenants out there, but you may not be aware of all of them that have submitted plans to the city. So we obviously have Orange Leaf, frozen yogurt that's been there for quite a while. Starbucks, Sports Clips is open. Which has the sign up? Does anyone know, have they actually opened yet?
No, they're not even close.
They're not even close, but they have the sign. Okay. Forever Yours Jewelry does not have their sign up yet, but how close are you guys?
Hopefully in 2 weeks.
2 weeks, so that'll be a second store for them in Sun Prairie. Prairie Lakes Dental is moving into the upper floor of the Starbucks building. And then Great Clips has also submitted their plans for build out in the Starbucks building. There are a few more that you may have heard about, and I've heard about, but since they haven't submitted plans yet, I don't want to jump the gun here and tell you about those yet. But we're excited about all of the different users that are moving into these buildings. Pizza Ranch, that one, I remember when Pizza Ranch opened, I couldn't remember if it was late 2012 or early 2013, but definitely a nice addition on the west side, adds to the variety of users out there. Sonic, if you haven't been out to Sonic, I think it's a little bit different, but I think it's a really neat project. I think they did a great job with the building, great job with the landscaping, and I'm excited when I saw that project come together. We worked with them closely on putting those plans together. And then, of course, McDonald's. I guess when we hit 40,000, we'll get a 4th McDonald's. It's good to see that investing on our west side as well. All right, and now a couple of projects that are planned I'll go over these quickly before I turn it over to Neil. Luxe Bar and Grill recently went through the Plan Commission and City Council. Got their plans approved for a site in Prairie Lakes, and I've got a map that'll show where this is in just a moment, but nice facade. This will be probably one of the first buildings you see as you come in to Prairie Lakes past the Starbucks building. This facade right here will be facing you. They have approval of their plans, but they've indicated they're not going to get started until the spring of 2014. It should be open by the end of next year. Grand Appliance. This is actually across the street north of Woodman's in the Bunny's Corner development. They, I believe, are going to try to get started this year. When I was out there the other day, they hadn't started any construction yet, but they've indicated they intend to get started here in November and hope to be able to build this building over the winter. Then, of course, the big ones that I'm sure you've all heard about, Cabela's has made an announcement that they are going to be building in Prairie Lakes, and Marcus has done the same. We're looking at probably spring 2014 construction starts, but I've been telling you that about Marcus for 5 years and it hasn't happened, so if you don't believe me, I will be offended. At this point, no plans have been filed with the city, so I can't talk about timelines. This is just kind of what we're hearing from the developer, but both seem serious now about moving forward and getting the project started in Prairie Lakes. So here's that overview map that I promised you. So here we have 151 Grand Avenue heading north. This is Hepker Road. So we have Target up here, Costco here, and Woodman's here are the existing large buildings out there. This is the Orange Leaf building. Starbucks didn't quite make this aerial. That building sits here. So I'll give you a quick overview. Monk's is going to sit right here in Prairie Lakes. So again, as you enter, that's going to be one of the first buildings you see. Grand Appliance is up here in the Bunny's Corner development, and I probably should have put McDonald's on there as well. They sit right here. Just to clarify, I've been getting a lot of questions about where is Cabela's going exactly. Cabela's is going to be located right down here. So as you view Prairie Lakes from the highway, that's going to be the prime user that everyone sees first. A couple of years ago, I was pointing at this site and telling you that that's where Marcus was going to build. Marcus has given up that piece of land. They're actually looking at the other large site farther north of in development, just north of Costco. So Marcus up here, Cabela's down here. There'll be some additional outlots. Hopefully we can get a hotel in here, some additional restaurants and stores in these areas. Cabela's isn't going to occupy the full site, but they will be down in that quadrant. And then the last thing I'm going to cover is just some things to expect for next year in terms of the city's capital projects. Most of you are probably familiar with the gap we have in West Main Street from Grand Avenue west towards the Waybridge and Windham Hill subdivisions. That's been in our plan for, I think it was originally programmed to be constructed in 2008. It's been pushed back. It looks like, assuming the budget gets adopted next Tuesday as proposed right now, it looks like that project will happen next year. Prairie Lakes Drive, unfortunately, a brand new street, and I'll go back to the aerial here. Prairie Lakes Drive is the roadway that runs right through here, and this segment between Grand Avenue and Hepker Road is a bit of a problem. If you've driven that, you've probably been frustrated through there. You're probably wondering what were they thinking? So, I'd like to give a little bit of background on that just so everyone's clear, so that when you see it under the knife again next summer, you don't think it was. You have a little bit of background, I guess. So what happened here is all of our traffic modeling shows this segment as being a real problem in the future, and this was kind of brought up a good 8 years ago, maybe even prior to that, this little segment is going to be a traffic nightmare when the area is completely built out. The recommendation from the DOT at that time, I'm not sure if I call it a recommendation or a directive at that time, was that this roadway needed to be designed to discourage cut-through traffic. So the idea was to try to get through traffic that's coming through on Hepker Road, come up to the intersection of Hepker and Grand Avenue. They use that route to either move to the north or get back to the Highway 151, the interchange. So when we designed this roadway, it was designed with the idea of providing access to these parcels, but trying to discourage people from using it as a cut through. I think what we're finding is that we have a bit of a dangerous situation out there. Some difficult turns, it's confusing, and over time, yes, I think this would function the way that the DOT intended, in that people would get so frustrated here that they would start. I'm not sure that would happen in a good way. So we're going to be smoothing that curve out and rebuilding a portion of this roadway next year to improve access through there. Now, 10 years from now, when you're going through there and you're stopped by traffic and it's difficult, there's a lot of congestion, remember that we know that's going to happen now. The bottom line is no matter what we build in here, whether we build a little 2-lane roadway or a 7-lane highway, it's going to fill up with cars and at times it's going to be congested. And we're just going to have to accept that fact. Unless we eliminate that roadway completely or do something really goofy like make it a 1-way, that's what we're going to have in there at certain times. And we'll just have to accept the fact that that's going to be congested. When that gets overly congested, people will hopefully use other routes to get around in this neighborhood. Hopefully we'll have some additional outlets here, whether that's Legacy connecting up to Main Street, Prairie Drive connecting up to westbound, some more ways for people to get in and out. But that's the situation there. It's been a bit frustrating from the start, but we're hoping to solve it at least for sometime next year. Then 2 other projects I thought were worth mentioning, just because we're all Sun Prairie residents, we all get around Sun Prairie. Next year it's going to be difficult in a couple of areas. South Bird Street from Lofi Street, which is just south of Main, down to Linnerud is going to be a full reconstruction project. And then on the east side, Woodview and Thomas, Woodview is kind of a north-south collector that serves a lot of neighborhoods over there. That will be a full reconstruction project as well. So if you use those routes regularly, you might want to start seeking out some alternative use for outlets.
Figure it out now.
With that, I'm going to turn things over to Neil